Hello and welcome. My name is Kate Marand. I'm a program manager at the DC Department of Small and Local Business Development for the Innovation and Equitable Development team. We are running a spring webinar series for DC small businesses Monday through Thursday throughout the rest of May. We hope that you can join for many of those. These sessions are also being recorded, and today we're incredibly excited to have colleagues from the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development Office to talk to us about an exciting new effort, the 2024 DC Small Business Census. And so with that, I would love to introduce Hannah Eli, and I'll turn things over.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And for any folks on the phone, we will be sharing the recording of this presentation as well as the slides after the presentation, just in case there are any questions or comments that folks might have after the session. So as Kate mentioned, we are here to talk about the 2024 DC Small Business Census. So we'll talk a little bit about, let's get the agenda going. We'll do some introductions really quickly. We'll talk just, what is the census very broadly. We'll talk about why you as a small business owner or why small business owners that you know should participate. We'll talk a little bit more about how we will and won't use the data and how you as a small business owner could use the data as well. Once we finalize the effort, timeline and outreach, and then we'll leave a little bit of time for questions at the very end. So please feel free to put questions in the chat. I think we'll be monitoring the chat as we go along, and we hope that we can get everything answered. So just to start off with some introductions, Kate introduced herself earlier, so thank you so much to Kate and the whole InnoEd and DSLBD teams for inviting me to present about this today. This is an effort that we're launching in partnership with DSLBD, in partnership with DLCP, and several other agencies across the district that we hope will help to both benefit small business owners and also to fill a data gap in terms of what we're able to know and able to understand about small businesses that are based in the district. So Kate introduced herself. My name is Hannah Eli. I'm the program manager for this small business census effort. I'm also the data officer at DEMPED here in DC, and I'm excited to be here with you all today. So just to give a quick overview of what the small business census actually is and why we're doing it, this is a 3 to 5 minute survey, essentially, that we're giving to small business owners that are headquartered within the district to get a better understanding of their size, location, ownership demographics, and industry information. We are only sending this out or visiting or calling, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, to DC-based businesses. So if your business, for example, is based in Virginia or Maryland or maybe another state, then this particular effort isn't for you, but we would still love to hear from you and hear about your business experiences in DC, just not in the context of this particular effort, where we're focusing on DC headquartered businesses. So because we are keeping it pretty tightly focused, we did want to keep it short to maximize responsiveness and maximize, we understand that small business owners are busy. So it should only take business owners about 3 to 5 minutes. Any business owner that's DC based may receive a call or a visit from the small business census team between May, so starting this week and the end of the summer of 2024. And why are we doing it? We'll talk a little bit more about how participation can benefit business owners in just a second. But the reason that we as DEMPED, as district government, are conducting this census is so that we're able to share some of our grant, contracting, and networking opportunities with more businesses so that we can improve our understanding of what types of small businesses exist in DC. So what industries, what neighborhood clusters, right? What sizes and locations of businesses that we might be seeing across the district. We do want to continue to streamline small businesses' interactions and experiences with district government, and this is one element that'll help us to do that. And then we also do want to track progress against our economic development goals. So in the comeback plan, the comprehensive economic development strategy released just about a year and a half ago now, we set a goal to increase the number of minority-owned employer businesses in the district to 33%. But we did want to have, as part of this effort, a more expansive effort to gather information about all of our small businesses and all of our employer businesses within the district. So this is a little bit more of an expansive effort that'll help us to track progress towards that particular. So that's a little bit about just what is the census, how does it benefit district government? But I know, that's not necessarily as persuasive to a small business owner who we know is busy, who has limited time to participate in these kinds of things. So what could be some of the benefits to you as a small business owner? Again, we do anticipate using this, the information gathered as part of the census to share opportunities about district government grant, contracting, and networking opportunities. We know that the information that will be provided as part of the census helps to fill a data gap, which also then helps to fill an advocacy gap for district agencies, council members, ANCs, community organizations, and businesses themselves to make sure that we can all advocate and understand the resource needs and the current community for small businesses in the district. So this helps us to get a more accurate picture above and beyond what's able to be provided by the federal data by getting a little bit more specific to where businesses are, who's owning businesses in DC, what their industries are, and what their locations are, so that we can know on a little bit more of a granular level within DC what businesses might need. It'll also help district agencies in evaluating whether our grants meet your needs, right? So if we find out, for example, through this program that businesses within a certain industry exist in a much higher proportion than we thought, that's something that we'll keep in mind as we're developing new grant programs, as we're assessing how best to use our funds when we do have grants to support the small business community. And it's hard for us to know that if we have only a partial picture of what businesses are in DC today. We'll also be sharing a limited portion of the information coming out of the small business census with the public. We'll talk a little bit more about what will and won't be made public in just a second. But we do hope that small business owners themselves are able to use this information to build relationships, network with other businesses within your industry or within your neighborhood. We do want this to be a resource that enables community building and outreach within not only the district government, right, so that we can increase our outreach to businesses, but also among businesses themselves as they build their community. And then also, we have a couple of efforts going right now as part of Small Business Week and Small Business Month to promote some of our grantees here at DEMPED. But we do also know that we want to shout out more businesses around the district, and having more information about, again, what businesses are located where, what industries they might be in, will help us to do that as part of themed weeks and months over the course of the year. So essentially, it helps to share resources, build connection, and promote your business, your neighbors' businesses, and things like that across the district. So we hope that even though this does fill a data gap, right, and does assist district agencies, that it'll also be helpful to you as business owners, which is why we're encouraging high participation. We're trying to get as many businesses that are reached out to participate as possible. So I mentioned earlier that we'll talk a little bit more about how we will and won't use the data, because we know that especially information about demographics or about how your business operates in terms of the size or the number of employees, that's pretty sensitive information, and we understand that folks might have concerns with that, or they might want to know where that information is going or how it's going to be used. So here are some examples of how we as district government would be looking to use the information, as well as some examples of how we wouldn't be. So I'll start with the positive. I'll start with the yes. So we would use the information to help potential business owners to identify areas of the district where there might be opportunities to open new businesses. So for example, if somebody comes to us and says, I want to open this particular type of retail business in this particular neighborhood, or I want to open this type of retail business anywhere, where might be a good neighborhood for me to look? We, using the results of the small business census, will be able to say, well, there are a lot of these businesses that are clustered in this area, which could be a positive thing, right? If you want to build an industry cluster of a particular type of retail business. But we could also say something like, there's a gap, right? Where in this neighborhood, there are no businesses of that type. And so it might be a great market for you to enter into. And so then that could start the discussion for you as a business owner in terms of locating your space, identifying an appropriate retail location, and things like that. We will be using the data to identify and benchmark progress again towards that comeback plan goal of increasing the percentage of total employer businesses in the district that are minority owned to 33% by the end of the comeback plan period. As of right now, we're at about 28.6%, but we don't know very much about who those businesses are, where they might be located, and things like that. And so that's one reason that we're collecting a little bit more granular information about folks' demographics. Again, the industry clusters question, so to see are particular types of businesses clustered in a certain area, are there ways that we can foster connections or foster growth within a particular area for a particular type of business, things like that. identifying industries that might need grant-based support or technical assistance resources based on median revenues compared to national trends. So we have a lot of good data right now coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, coming from the Census Bureau, about what are, for example, average and median revenues for certain industries nationally and by state. But what we don't have a good idea of is within particular communities in DC or within DC as a whole today, right? Because federal data lags a little bit. Are DC businesses aligning with some of those national medians, or are there areas where we could provide more targeted support, whether that's through um, looking at our grant programs to see if certain industries need more support, providing targeted technical assistance and things like that. Because at the end of the day, knowing more about our small business community enables us to better target our resources to ensure small business owners can thrive. So those are some examples of how we will be using the data that comes out of the small business census. What we won't be doing is using the data from the small business census to, impact past, current, or future individual grants or contracts that your business has with district government. So we're not doing an audit based on this data. We're not, this information will not be used to flag your business, for example, in any way. We are using it on the aggregate level to, again, assess whether our grants are supporting the businesses that might need support within the district, but we're not using it to revoke anything or do anything punitive or things like that. We also won't be sharing publicly any business level information on your business's revenue or number of employees. Those are two questions that are asked on the census. And we ask those only to understand if the businesses that are being surveyed fall under our definition of a small business. We're not asking that to, again, conduct an audit or things like that. Because this is the small business census, if the business is large and falls above the revenue threshold, we wouldn't include that information in the final resource. So we do anticipate sharing publicly some information about, for example, business locations, potentially as some sort of public directory for businesses that individuals could use to find fellow businesses within their industry, businesses in their neighborhood, and things like that. But no information about revenue or business size will be included as part of that public information. And then in terms of timeline and outreach, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but the way that we're conducting this census, and I know we have a couple members of the small business census team, some of the outreach team folks on the call right now. So if there are any questions about what that might look like, we might be able to answer those in the Q&A section. But businesses may receive a phone call or an in-person visit from a member of the small business census team between May and the end of the summer of 2024. So they might receive a phone call, they might receive a visit, they'll visit your location in person. If you or another owner of your business are not available at the time of the call or visit, you will be able to schedule a callback or a separate visit with the team to make sure that they can come and conduct the census at a time that works better for you. And the SBC team will reach out up to 3 times. And at any time, you can say, no, I don't want to participate in this. After that, we will not try to contact you again. That's totally fine. We understand that not everybody wants to participate, but we do really appreciate your participation as a small business in providing some of this information. We do also want to make sure that businesses are able to participate in languages other than English. So we do have support for Spanish, Amharic, Chinese, French, Vietnamese, and Korean as well. And business owners, if they'd like to conduct or participate in the census in a language other than English, they can just let the call taker or the visitor know that they'd like to participate in another language. And we'll be able to provide resources that'll enable that to happen either at that moment, or they might receive a call back as well to make sure that they can participate. And as I mentioned before, we will provide updates on the results of the census and ongoing related work in the months following the census. But as of right now, May and the end of summer 2024 is the timeline that you should be thinking about for participating in the census, and there will be more news to come as we continue. So, in summary, the small business census is an effort that's ongoing from district government agencies over the course of this summer. It'll take 3 to 5 minutes of your time to provide information about your business's size, locations, ownership demographics, and industry. And we're hoping that it can be a resource to not only assist district government in understanding how to increase our advocacy and increase our understanding of the small business community, but that it can also be a resource for small business owners as they work to identify opportunities in the city, network, and build their communities. So we thank you so much for your participation in advance. And we do have some contact information. More information is available as well on our website at demped.dc.gov/SBC. And we can put that link in the chat in just a second. But let's open it up for questions. And thanks everybody so much for being here.
Hannah, thank you so much. There is a question in the chat, and I'm happy to read off questions in the chat if folks want to drop them in. We also have 3 call-in users. So when we get through some questions in the chat, we'll also go and unmute our call-in users in case they want to ask any questions as well. But the question that's in the chat right now is, what is the definition for being acknowledged as a small business by your organization?
Yeah, so this was something that we spent a lot of time on as we were preparing to launch the census. So initially we went with the Federal Small Business Administration's definition, which starts the cap at 500 employees or fewer, and then sets specific revenue thresholds by industry, depending on the business. But where we're starting now at this point, because we realized that I think it was something like 98% of businesses that are DC based would fall under that threshold, is we started with an upper revenue threshold of $15 million to align with some of the revenue thresholds for district government grants currently. So to ensure that we would be able to capture, within that threshold, any business that would be eligible to receive potentially a district government grant. And then once we actually receive the results of the census, we'll be segmenting further by industry. So our top threshold is 15 million. We thought about some of the federal SBA thresholds, and then we'll segment a little further once we receive that information from respondents.
Thank you so much for that. I haven't seen any other questions in the chat, so we're going to move to call-in users. But I will say, if you have additional questions, if you're on the line, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to unmute all the call-in users at once because I think everyone starts with the same area code. So if you're talking at the same time, just one person pause and we'll get to everybody. You're getting a request to unmute now. Any questions from our call-in users? If anyone is speaking, it doesn't sound like you are, so it doesn't sound like you have any questions. You might want to check mute on your phone. But I'm not sure if we have any additional questions. I'll give my call-in users another quick moment. I'm going to leave you unmuted, but we're going to ask another question that came in the chat. Does your organization assist with locating and securing grants?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different ways at DEMPED that we assist with grant funding. So first, we do provide grants, several different kinds of grants, and I'm happy to follow up after this call to provide more information about how that works. And then in terms of helping to find grants, if you do reach out to our business development team, we are able to help you talk through with your business, maybe what are your goals, what are your challenges, what are some of those resources that you might be looking for, and we can help out in that way. But Kate, does DSLBD, because I know you all provide a lot of technical assistance and coaching through a couple different programs, would DSLBD be a good agency to talk to as well about that?
Yes. In general, DSLBD provides support to all DC-based businesses and entrepreneurs. So grants is one space, but what we would actually do is talk to you about financial management and capital overall. So one of the things that we've launched recently and we'll be launching in a larger space is a very focused set of surveys and tools related to access to capital for your business. So the first is the Equitable Access to Capital Survey. It goes a little deeper. It's sort of similar, but deeper from what the census is doing, because that is a tool to help us understand where people are specifically facing barriers in access to capital. And then once you've completed that, if you are a DC-based business, then you would do the Passport for Funding Readiness, in which we would be looking at 14 different areas that we've worked with capital providers in order to support you in understanding what you need to be ready for: grants, loans, and other types of capital support. And we'll come back to this. There's a little bit. I don't have any questions. I'm going to reach you again in a second, but any last questions? Okay. We're gonna meet the call-in users.
Sounded like somebody might have had a question.
Okay.
I'm not sure which one of the call users.
I will unmute the call users. My apologies. I thought that was back to me.
Hi, thank you for unmuting me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, great, thank you. I have a question. You were just talking about the solicitation for additional funds. Is that a requirement prior to trying to get a grant?
In terms of doing the equitable access to capital survey and the passport for funding readiness?
Yes.
So those are not prerequisites to getting a grant from district government or elsewhere. What that is providing more directed support as you are seeking capital options, as you're thinking about how much capital I need to have, how do I be ready? So it is a supportive process and tool, but it is not a prerequisite. If you are applying to district government grants, one thing that you can do is come meet with myself or a member of my team Wednesdays at the MLK Library. We're doing the session from the MLK Library right now by appointment. We're happy to talk to you about how to be searching for grants. There are some very specific spaces to be looking for business development grants, but there might be a wider strategy depending on what industry you're in and some of the things that you're looking at as well.
Thank you. How long are you there today?
So we are by appointment, so we'll actually be done at 5. But if you send an email, and I don't know if you have a pen, it's the same email address that you would probably gotten information about this session. But if you write to innno.ed@dc.gov, again, that is innno.ed@dc.gov, a member of my team can help support you with scheduling.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions from call leaders? Well, Hannah, I will just say really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and mute our call-in users again. Really excited about the Small Business Census project and all the spaces that it can be supporting the entire small business ecosystem, all the things that Hannah was mentioning, both about how it will help government support businesses and create additional tools, resources, information. So we do hope that folks will be interested in taking the survey and also sharing the information about the survey with other small businesses. Anytime there's a census, a full count is always like the most wonderful thing. If we get it as far as we can go towards that, I think it's going to do a lot because there are so many great small businesses in the district, and to be able to better recognize and understand the situations that you're in terms of data, I think it's just going to continue to build the efforts by government and by all of our great ecosystem partners.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Kate, to you and the whole InnoEd team for hosting this series. To anybody on the call who might have more questions or who might want to reach out, my contact information for the small business census is here. You can reach us online or by the emails listed on the slide. And thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, everyone. We'll go ahead and we'll call that a wrap and have a great day. Thanks.
Thanks all.